Good evening, welcome to this full council meeting of Bletchley and Fenny Stratford Town Council, which is being held here at the Newton Pavilion on Tuesday the 17th of March 2026. I am Nathaniel Hamilton, I'm Mayor of Bletchley and Fenny Stratford, and I will be chairing this meeting. I would like to remind everybody present that this is a meeting being conducted in accordance with the Town Council's standing orders and this meet and the relevant provisions of the Local Government Act 1972. This meeting is held in public rather than being a public meeting. Members of the public are welcome to observe proceedings and may participate during the public participation item on the agenda, provided a request to speak has been submitted by 12 midday on the day prior to the meeting. The time allocated for public participation will last no more than 15 minutes, and individuals will be able to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. I will ask the Deputy Mayor to keep time for me, please. Requests to speak or ask questions will be dealt with in the order which they were received. Our council has signed up to the Civility and Respect Pledge. We therefore expect all participants to conduct their part in the meeting in a civil and respectful manner. We want everybody to be able to hear, so please respect whoever is speaking by not chatting amongst yourselves. I ask everyone present to respect the procedures of the meeting so the council can conduct its business properly. Please could you turn off your mobiles or put them to silent. Also, in the interest of openness and transparency, you should be aware that the meeting is being recorded and being broadcast via our social media channels. Councillors, if you wish to speak this evening, please raise your hand. You will normally have the opportunity to speak once on each item for a period of up to 3 minutes. All points being made, whether by members of the public or councillors, are to be made through the chair. I will ask for the assistance of the Deputy Mayor to keep timing and the Town Clerk to give me advice on standing orders if needed. Councillors are reminded to declare any disclosable pecuniary interest or other interest in relation to items on the agenda. Before we start, there is some housekeeping to note. We are not expecting a fire drill, so if the fire alarm sounds, please leave as quickly as possible. The doors are at the front of the room and also behind me, and the assembly point is adjacent to the gate right at the other end of the car park. For those members of the public present at the meeting in person or watching via our live stream, I will now ask the members of this council to introduce themselves, starting with Eamon.
I'm Noel Fenny Stratford.
Brown, Lancs Estate.
Ron Hank, Queensland, Denby North.
By Blackman, Fenny Stratford.
Justin Cole, Daniel Batalano, Newton Lees. Richard Susan, South Eaton.
William Rampant Gandhi. Richard Brown, Central Bletchley, Deputy Mayor.
Craig Scott, Manor North and Eton Lees.
Keith Heaney, Manor South.
Joe Stevens, Man South.
Paul John Summerley, Newton Lakes.
Marie Warner, Lakes Estate.
Thank you. And I'd also like the Bletchley and Fenny Stratford Town Council officers to introduce themselves, starting with you, John.
John Fairclough, Town Clerk.
Louise Salmon. Alison Brown, Finance Manager.
Thank you. We'd also like to welcome Graham Cox and Paul Harrison from Milton Keynes City Council, who are here to talk to us about the parking in Queensway. A reminder that this part of the meeting is not for public participation. Are there any items on the agenda tonight that are confidential? No. Okay. Thank you very much. We'll now go on to the main part of the agenda. So I will vary the order of the meeting tonight because I appreciate that we've got guests, but legally we do have to do some items on the agenda first, and then also it would be good to get the public speaking so that we understand what the public want to ask of you. So we'll do that. First of all, can I please note councillors' apologies for absence?
Yeah, Councillors Hume, Hussein and Fernandez.
Item 2 of the agenda, to note councillors' declarations of interest in matters on the agenda. Do any councillors wish to declare an interest? No, I will take that as needed. Next item on the agenda, pages 5 to 8 in your pack, is to approve the draft meeting of the previous meeting of the council. Any members have any comment on those minutes? No, I will take silence that everybody is happy and that they are happy for me to sign the minutes when they become available. If we can now go on to public speaking, which is item 4. First off, we have George Dengle, Chair of Water Eaton Residents Association. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for allowing me to say a few words. First of all, my name is George Dangle, and I'm Chair of the Water Eaton Residents Association. Firstly, I would like to say thank you to MKCC for the road repairs near the Water Eaton Bridge. No doubt this will make drivers a lot happier when driving down there, not feeling like they're on a roller coaster. Recently, there was an article in The Citizen about the government giving local authorities the power to fine drivers who block pavements and create a safety risk. Will Milton Keynes Council be requesting such authority? This leads me to a problem on cars parked on double yellow lines and on pavements. At peak times, near where I live, 2 schools in my area, the Academy, Bishop Park School, the residents that live there are having problems with parents parking, the pavements, and causing unnecessary obstructions in Hunter Drive and surrounding roads like Tiffany, Magenta, Cornelia, etc. If this new legislation is adopted by MKC, this could actually reduce the problem as long as it is enforced. That is the big issue. Lastly, MKCC had and was trying to implement a school street parking scheme, and you had a safety officer that helped our RA find a parking forum. This was headed by Cabinet Member Councillor Ed Hume. The aim was to bring schools and residents together and to develop a school street parking scheme. Unfortunately, the safety officer sadly passed away. We'd like to know, has this officer been replaced? If so, why have not been advised so that I can proceed with a concept of developing a school street scheme and keep everybody safe near our schools? Can MKCC confirm that they still support school streets? Thank you.
Thank you. Next person to speak, I've lost my bit of paper, sorry. Andrew Ravnagard, Chair of Bletchley Park Area Residents Association and Chair of the Consortium of Bletchley Residents Association, otherwise known as COBRA.
Yes. The good PR that's been generated by the Queensway improvements is being negatively impacted due to some residents who perceive that there's a lack of parking enforcement, perceived timidity of enforcement officers, and perceived reluctance to issue penalties. Most residents are not aware that we have the only dedicated enforcement team outside the city centre. So on behalf of COBRA, we appeal to this council as follows: that the City Council provides greater transparency regarding the areas patrolled and the enforcement action taken. The City Council works with this council to agree areas to be patrolled and to share enforcement data and any problems, so that this council can address any concerns raised by the residents and council taxpayers. We are aware that the enforcement team also covers West Bletchley, whose council receives masses of enforcement data that they must drill down to access just basic information. Surely the City Council IT department can do better, and for this council too. Item 14 on your agenda is the West Bletchley parking consultation. The lack of perceived enforcement action in Queensway is having a negative impact on West Bletchley residents who are taking part in this consultation, because they're asking if we ask for parking restrictions in the roads close to the rail centre to prevent commuters and students parking outside our houses, will the restrictions be enforced, as we see little enforcement of restrictions in Queensway? In addition, can this council work with the City Council to deal with the pavement parking close to the Lennox Road and Princess Way and Mini Roundabout? This is an area where pavements are damaged, pedestrians are at risk from vehicles crossing the footpath, and they're forced to walk in the busy road. There needs to be bollards or equipment to prevent pavement parking here, and a bylaw to counter the claims that occupiers have a right to cross a footpath to park outside their premises. And regarding the temporary planters that have now been removed from Queensway, can this council request that Highways install a couple of these in Chandos Place? to stop the parking there until a permanent solution later this year. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We also have a question or public speaking request from Stephen Lawrence, who's a business owner in the parish. Thank you. You've got 3 minutes.
Not a business owner particularly, just an employee.
Okay.
I work on an estate just down the road, miles crosswise that way, Barton Road Industrial Estate. It's been plagued by parking in general on the site. I'm a forklift driver myself. I have issues almost on a weekly basis unloading vehicles due to the high number of cars that are parked on the site. Most of these cars are auctions, from what I believe, so auction selling cars that will park up on any area of that estate for weeks, if not months, until they move, get moved again. Again, resident similarities, but on an estate, we don't have any enforcement, few and far between. Occasional blip of enforcement officer will come down once every few months, a few tickets on the car, goes away. The problem keeps revolving round and round and round. And more than it just being it's dangerous. I think the estate is dangerous. I'd just like to know what can be done about it. If there's going to be any future enforcement, it will continue to be enforced so businesses can go about their daily business. That's it.
So Mr. Lawrence, the questions that came in beforehand, and it says resident on Barton Road, I'm assuming that that's from you as well?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Okay, we now go on to item 6, which is to receive an update from Milton Keynes Council on the approach to parking enforcement in Bletchley and Fenny, Stratford. Is there anything that you'd want to say before I go on to the questions that we've got listed here?
I'm quite happy for you to go on to questions because we've given some answers to those.
Okay.
And if there's anything else you want to know, we can.
Okay.
I'm going to jump in and answer some of these public questions if you want me to as well.
Are there any members that wanted to have a question? I've got a list of questions here, but I just want to take account of how many members want to speak on this item. Okay.
After I've heard the gentleman speaking, I might have a question.
Right. Okay. So question number 1, how many civil enforcement officer patrol hours are currently allocated to Bletchley and Fenny Stratford each week?
So, on average, we deploy about 3 to 4 CEOs in Bletchley and Fenny Stratford. Their hours are generally 8.5 hours a day, 6 days a week. But this does include travel time and breaks, some school enforcement within the local area.
Thank you. The next question that came in is, how does this level of enforcement compare with the patrol hours allocated to Central Milton Keynes?
So in Central Milton Keynes, we have between 6 and 8 CEOs operating in Central Milton Keynes with 7 days a week, and they do 8.5 hours a day, which can include breaks.
Okay. Are you aware, question number 3, how many penalty charge notices have been issued in Bletchley and Fenny Stratford during the past 12 months?
Yep, we've issued 2,368 penalty charge notices in the last 12 months.
Number 4, does Milton Keynes City Council hold data identifying streets or areas of Bletchley where illegal parking occurs most frequently? And if so, what targeted enforcement actions are taken in those locations?
So we don't actually hold any specific data in a spreadsheet as such, but we are aware of the main areas of concern. They're noted in our deployment plan, and they're classed as priority lists, streets that we visit regularly through the deployment plan, which is reviewed every week. So we also include with that any inquiries we get during the previous week. If we can react to them on the day, we will, but generally we add them into the next week's deployment plan and go around and investigate, and where possible we can enforce.
Thank you. Question number 5. As regeneration works continue in Bletchley Town Centre, what steps does Milton Keynes City Council intend to take over the next 12 months to improve parking enforcement and address persistent problem areas?
I think obviously Darrell on that might talk about Queensway's design and progress in terms of its public realm work, but the truth is that that is designed to physically prevent a lot of the issues that have plagued Queensway for a long time. So although enforcement will remain at a very high level there, we're actually not expecting a lot of the problems to be there that will require enforcement longer term in Queensway. But we'll keep that under review, especially as we're doing the work and we're moving the traffic around. Some of the problems might get pushed around in the streets and that. So if, as Paul said, if we get notified of that or we become aware of it ourselves, we'll change our deployment plan to tackle those areas to help keep things as smooth as they can be while we do the construction work in Queensway.
So I think some of the residents don't believe that there's enough enforcement in Bletchley. Perhaps you can give us your opinion whether there is, and maybe also explain some of the difficulties of enforcement, such as having to wait for some of the, not every contravention can be an immediate ticket, but I think it would be useful to understand that.
So we currently have around 18 civil enforcement officers that are active during the day through shift patterns. So we have to deploy them throughout the whole of the city. So we're very limited on the amount of resource we've got. So we do our best. I mean, Bletchley gets more enforcement than the other town centre in Milton Keynes, in significantly more. There is a perception sometimes that there's a contravention occurring when there actually isn't. So we do attend those sites. We look at it. There's not a contravention happening, or there's no restriction there for them to enforce. Then sometimes it's seen that they're not doing anything. There's Bletchley and Fenny Stratford have a lot of streets that have restrictions in them. So we've got to try and get round to every street at some point and check those. So while we're out deployed in other streets, you might find that there's some streets that are not being visited that day, or they don't get as regular visits, especially when we have certain areas of priority, which Queensway, that takes up a lot of our time, which is a bit of a cat and mouse situation going on in Queensway. So those that were parking on the footways prior to the improvements that are being made, they were fully aware of the civil enforcement officers, and when seeing them approaching, they'd jump in their car and drive off, which prevents us from being able to carry out the enforcement. So there are restrictions that also require us to do an observation period. So, for example, WL lines, waiting restrictions. If vehicles parked on the WL line, we have to give an observation period. But we regularly just talk to our CEOs and remind them of that. That there isn't, not to enforce. They're out there doing the best they can. But there are issues sometimes with conflict with the public. So that sometimes requires them to pair up, which takes them away from visiting more streets than they could do. But generally, there are main challenges with enforcement.
So it has been reported by some members of the public that they don't go round in pairs; they go round in threes, and so it would be interesting to kind of understand if that is actually the kind of deployment plan. And because obviously, as you've just alluded to, when they're together, less gets covered. But also, I do understand that you've also said that sometimes they do receive threatening behaviour from members of the public and they don't feel safe. So if you could just explore that a little bit more.
Yeah, I'll take that back to the enforcement team and I'll find out whether that's happening or not, and then have a conversation with the contract manager and remind him that
any specific days or dates we will look into that.
And I think we will put something out to the members of the public to say if they want to let us know, then we can collect that information. With East West Rail, Universal Studios attracting more footfall to Bletchley train station, and drivers, it seems, not wanting to pay for parking, how is it being factored into future plans to ensure illegal parking or the ripple effect does not find its way to residential roads that will become unsafe and a hazard? And I think I'll just add on to the point that Angie made. There's currently a consultation going on in West Bletchley, and I think some of the concerns of the councillors here in Bletchley and Stratford is we already have an issue, and actually if there's more restrictions on the other side of the bridge, will people actually come here? And I say this, there is a car park at Sainsbury's, which is I think £1.50 for an entire day, which is a 5-minute walk away, which people aren't using, but they're trying to park on the streets to avoid it. So it'd be interesting to know what the future plan is around that.
I'll certainly take it back to the team that are managing this consultation and see if we can expand it out to Central Bletchley. There is a lot of resident permit schemes in Central Bletchley which would prevent those commuters from parking there through enforcement. So there are a lot of roads that would already qualify for the scheme in a sense because they're already in place. But we certainly, I'm happy to have a look at, the 5-10 minute walking distance from the train station, see if there's any roads that could be vulnerable to that, and then take it back to the team that's working on this conversation.
I think it's worth adding that you mentioned it yourself. A broader parking capacity and behaviour study was done as part of Queensway, and that identified that there is clearly plenty of off-street parking available. So people are choosing not to use that parking, be that because they don't want to pay a fee or they just want to park right outside the shop that they're attending. Now I know there are some businesses who would support that method, but in truth, we want to keep the roads flowing but still give fair parking to people. So we always look to, when we design these schemes and the areas involved in these schemes, and they do what they're intended, which is protect people near the station from commuter parking effectively, but also that we don't just displace that parking to somewhere else. So we're happy to look at that and see if we've got the right area attached.
Thank you. I think a couple of years ago, we maybe had a presentation in relation to some of the powers that Milton Keynes City Council has had, and I think George mentioned earlier that there are powers that we don't currently have in Milton Keynes, which would make it far easier to police certain items. And I think there's some of us here who maybe think that ticketing isn't enough, and that there needs to be more strenuous action taken against people who are constantly parking where they shouldn't, if that can actually be done. So what happened to that consultation and the proposals? Because I believe that it was actually discussed in this room whether you would operate a vehicle pound or you would actually physically remove cars. That was one of the things that was suggested to the council could happen.
So there are no plans currently to have tow away or pound. That's not something that's being discussed or considered at this stage. In terms of the sort of broader powers of footway parking, and that's a bit of a misnomer in terms of what that is related to London powers, where they automatically designate all footway parking not allowed. We can do it, and we have actually created a traffic order that facilitates us to do it, but it requires us to go street by street and put up signs at certain frequencies. So we don't do that here unless it's a consistent problem, because otherwise you end up with a signpost and a sign every 30 metres, effectively. First one within 15 metres of the start of the restriction. And it would end up with a forest of signs. So we want to try and avoid that, if I'm honest with you. But if there is a persistent problem where obstruction is occurring and we're seeing people walking in the road and all this kind of action, then we can consider some steps to bring that into that area.
Thank you. Do you not think that Queensway is a persistent problem though?
Queensway is slightly different in the sense of the way that people are parking on their own frontages. So they're allowed to park on their own land. I was explaining this to Angie yesterday. The difficulty is that a lot of the properties, they're not all of them. And so again, that requires us to find out who owns what bit of land each time it happens. But people are allowed to park on their own frontage if they can get their car there. But it's illegal, a moving traffic offence, to drive over the footpath or on the footpath to get to your land, unless you've got a crossover licence where we've created a driveway entrance and you have right of passage then. Problem is that that's a moving traffic offence that only the police can enforce, and they will only enforce it, would only enforce it, if they saw it actually happening. Because otherwise you could always claim that you got your car there some other method, you trained it over or you did whatever. There will be no prosecution the police could bring for that. And so they generally don't do that. So we have to, as Angie said, if we want to prevent that, and that's why we're doing Queensway scheme, we have to put physical measures in to stop people going on the footpath effectively. But again, we're back to this balance that we want to find with stopping vehicles, but not having lines and lines of bollards down the edge of every road everywhere or railings. So targeted locations is where we try and get to as a balance piece. I know Angie's got an issue about the junction of Lennox Road on the corner there, and Chandos Place is a similar sort of scenario effectively. So we do have to work out methods there, but it's not something we routinely do everywhere. If we've got a residential street, then we may consider putting up the signs and bringing in the enforcement powers.
Okay, I think final question from the public. I think it's just to go back to Mr. Lawrence's point. What can be done specifically around Barton Road? I've personally been around there because it's got a parcel drop-off point, and literally you can't park anywhere to actually put the parcels in the post box. And I sometimes go there with my son, and I actually don't want him to get out of the car because I'm worried that he will not be seen by vehicles. So what specifically could be done there? Is that land where people park in public highway? And is there anything that can be done to sort that out?
So it's the first time I've heard about Barton Road, which are full. There are some restrictions in Barton Road that we do enforce. However, there has been some altercations down there, and the police have been involved in those altercations with our guys. So at the moment, we're reviewing our deployment plan down there of how we can do it safely. So yes, there are restrictions. Yes, we do intend to enforce them some more. But yes, we have some difficulties with it at the moment.
Sam, is it related to this?
Yes. Yeah. But doesn't Milton Keynes Council realise that driving etiquette has gone down the pan? And there's loads of drivers on the road that don't know how to drive properly and how to abide by our laws. And then Milton Keynes Council don't enforce it. If you're not enforcing the laws, then it's all going to go to pot anyway. There'll be people arguing and fighting on the streets.
Which ones do we not enforcing?
Well, in Queensway, anywhere across Bletchley.
We're changing, we're physically changing.
But you're not.
Stop that.
Huh?
It's not a conversation.
Yeah, I know, but it needs to be addressed.
Yes, we know. We know. I've got one more question, and I'll ask Richard wants to ask a question. I think Ray is next after that. So we also are aware there is an issue in Aylesbury Street in Fenny, Stratford, where there is parking that's been put there for people to come access the shops, which is actually full of resident parking, or it has been said that there is a garage in that location that is parking their vehicles on Aylesbury Street because they don't have their own parking. And every time that signage is put up in Aylesbury Street, it is removed very quickly by somebody. And clearly we can't live, we shouldn't be living to echo Councillor Brown's point, we shouldn't be living in the times where people can actually just stop any enforcement action being undertaken because they can just take the signs down. What is being done about that?
Removal of the sign is an antisocial behaviour. So without saying too much about that, we are aware of it and we are putting in measures to find the perpetrators, removing the sign so the sign remains in place.
Okay. So I've heard a rumour, and it is only a rumour, but actually you don't want to put the signs back up because you're not them. So perhaps you can just confirm that they will.
Absolutely confirm. There's no issue with us wanting, we don't do things like that. If the rule is there, the sign should be there, we should enforce it.
Thank you, Richard, and then Ray. Ray, did you want to go?
You mentioned about data. This council received data for 11 months worth of parking. Every single action by a CEO was recorded. When you look at that data and drill down into it, 84% of visits that do not issue a ticket. So of the 2,500 or 2,300, 84% do not issue a ticket. Additionally, when you do further, something like 75%, the visit time is 0 minutes. So, and this is not my data, this is the data you supplied us. Now, I think if the data is correct, or even if it's incorrect, it's very powerful data. I'm not a data analyst, but someone in your organisation must surely see that. You sent it to us. Somebody must be saying, we need to drill into this. 0 tickets issued and 0 time. And I've got just a brief ticket here. Watling Street started 7:35, finished 7:36, 1 minute. From there, they went to Vicarage Road, 7:37 to 7:37, 0 minutes. Now, I live in Vicarage Road, and I couldn't get to Watling Street. On a Harley Davidson, I couldn't get to from Watling Street to Vicarage Road. 7:39 to 7:40, they were in Paddock Way. 7:40 to 7:53, they're going to Stuart Road. But these people are obviously driving, and they're doing a visual observation when they're driving. And if you go through it, and I have tried to put them all into route maps, and they're clearly driving through Bletchley, making notes. Oh, there's no one in here.
30 seconds.
And it's atrocious. You know, what you're coming out with is we're looking at it, we're planning to. There's no action points coming from you, and it's disgraceful.
Thank you. Is there anything you want to reply to on that?
You can send me the data that was passed to you.
We can certainly send it to you.
Yeah.
Send it to us.
I mean,
But I would say driving along Vicarage Road, for instance, there's no cars there. Why would you want them to stop? Surely you want to go and find cars that they need to ticket.
Yeah, I didn't say that. I said
If you said they drove around, they must be driving.
they are driving.
Oh, well, what's wrong with that? If they drive, they'd be on that, they would have done that on their way to Queensway or somewhere.
Sorry, this is not a conversation. So I think the point's been made. We'll get the data. Is there any final point that you wanted to make?
Just to say, if somebody took the time to look at it and actually look at it, as opposed to just have a pile of paper and put it to one side, you can see it's not managed and you're not doing anything with the data. Why even have it if you're not going to do anything with it? Are you there to manage it or not manage it? You need to own up to that.
Would you like the final right of reply, and then we're going to stop on the site?
We have a team and we monitor the deployment plans all the time. We contract manage the provider, and if they're driving along the street, I don't want them to stop if there's no cars there. I want them to drive to a destination where there are cars and then undertake enforcement. They would stop if there was a car contravening. So
It's just a final question. I've been living and working in Bletchley and Fenny, Stratford for the past 30 years, and I've seen everything. I appreciate the parking enforcement officers have a torrid time with members of the public. It's not an easy situation. I've witnessed it myself. The members of the public have attacked, argued, and wanted to fight parking enforcement. I've seen it myself. I've stopped it myself. I've been living and working in and around Bletchley and Fenny, Stratford for the past 30 years. And to say that Queensway is an issue, and it's been an issue for the past 30 years. So we need a different strategy, other than the strategy that's here now. I don't see why the town board deal or Milton Keynes Council don't look at Bletchley and Fenny Stratford and say we need a different strategy. And I've always said, aim display. I've always said a parking line, so that if you're parking on double yellows, you're going to get nicked. Why can't we come up with a different strategy for Bletchley and Fenny Stratford and some of the roads around Bletchley and Fenny Stratford, so that these repeat people that don't care about our town centre, that don't care about where they park, and I know it's an issue for parking enforcement to catch up to them and actually issue a ticket. Well, why can't we have a different strategy? Why can't we think about a different strategy and a different way for parking enforcement in Bletchley? That is my question. A different strategy, because it doesn't work. It works sometimes, but it's not working enough for the residents. And that's what we're talking about here.
Ron, is it quick?
It's quick, yeah. You said they get abuse and threats. How many times have they reported it to the police, and how many prosecutions has there been?
We've recently done a response to an inquiry on an FOI. I don't have that data with me, so I'm unable to give you the exact numbers. Some instances do go unreported, sometimes because they're used to hearing the abuse. But there have been anything with regards to prosecution and stuff. That's with the police, not with us. And once we pass it over to police, it's then handled with the police. We can't get involved in that stage. They don't generally come back with an outcome. We'd have to go searching for that. But I'm not aware of any outcomes.
So obviously none of it's come to.
Sorry, Ron. It's not a conversation. I think we're just going to end it there. This has now been going on for 37 minutes. I allocated 20. I know it is a really contentious issue. I will ask the clerk and the deputy clerk if any councillors want to speak to them to collect any further questions, and we'll get them across via email. But I just don't think, I think that we've got members of the public that also would like to add stuff. We just will not get through all the business that we have tonight. I'd really like to thank you for coming here tonight. You're not, you don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting. I'm sure that you've got lives that you want to go to, but probably do expect that we will get some further questions to you. But thanks very much for coming this evening. Thank you. And let's apologise. Earlier, I did not say hello to Sam Lennon and Darryl Camden when I did not mention you. So many apologies for that. I'm going to vary the item of the order of the agenda so that we go with the town deal update next. I think there may be some relevance to some of the things that have been said, and also you might want to go home as well. So I'll vary these. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Cheers, Tim. Right, let me join the meeting very quickly, and I'll share a presentation up on my screen. Bear with me 1 minute. As I load up that presentation, hopefully the majority of you have met me before. It's been introduced, Darryl Camden, Programme Manager for the Bletchley and Fenny Stratford Town Deal. To those who aren't as familiar with me, you probably know Sam Lennon a lot better. She is out there in the community. She was employed by the programme to bridge that issue we had with engagement with the community. We've done a wealth of engagement over the years, but there was a bit of a perception that we might not be getting the information out to everyone. We might not be making as good a connections as we possibly could. And that's the main reason why we brought Sam on board to kind of bridge that issue. I've just gone to join in the lobby.
I can see it. Yeah.
Hopefully I've muted my sound.
There you go. Microphone.
I haven't muted my sound. Perfect. Brilliant. I'll just bring that presentation up now. How long do you want me to talk for? After that, I can make this as brief as or as detailed as you want.
If you could keep 5 minutes, that would be
5 minutes, right? This will be usually talk for a good 30. That's absolutely fine. Well, I will skip past a fair few of these slides really and get onto the bits you're probably more interested in. So ignore the nice images. Won't say anything about the town deal other than we received £22.7 million. That is also supplemented with about £10 million in match funding from various organisations, Bletchley Park Trust, MK College, and some additional funding from Milton Keynes City Council. The programme itself comprises of several projects. The one we're going to talk about in a bit more detail really are the public realm improvements, the transport hub scheme and the revolving development hub scheme. So yeah, hopefully you've all seen the lovely Redway improvements we've done. You've been to MK College and seen the wonderful tech equipment investment made there. Hopefully been to Bletchley Park, but that's an absolutely fantastic asset that we have here. And of course, the project at the bottom, the one that Suki works on, supporting businesses to invest, relocate, or just generally trying to understand how best we can deliver this regeneration to support businesses as well. And some of that comes in on to Queensway. So we'll go straight on to Queensway. Hopefully you're all very aware that the actual works are now taking place. We started that at the end of October. Phase one, the works taking place up to Elizabeth Square are now largely complete. You've hopefully seen all the nice new paving. You would have seen rows of bollards in places which will prevent any illegal parking going up onto the pavement. We're now moving down further into phase two. And at the same time, we're looking to start phase four, which is Stanley Square. So we're looking to start the works on that hopefully next Monday. So you will see hopefully two simultaneous ringway gangs working, trying to get this programme delivered as quickly, but also as cost efficiently, as possible. The last phase is phase three, which is that infill area between Brooklands Road and Albert Street. Thank you. That's why I always look to Sam, because she knows everything, Bletchley. The key changes here, we have 3 new crossing points, raised crossing points, roughly 30 metres apart from each other. 60, but if you're at the halfway point, you're 30 metres from a crossing point. We have an increase in parking spaces, so we now have more accessible parking spaces as well as regular parking spaces in the area. The road itself will be single carriageway. By doing that, we can put in more kind of parallel parking spaces. We can put a new cycle lane going through Queensway. We can put new planting, street furniture. We can actually make this a really nice, usable street that still caters for cars, but also balances the needs of other users a lot better. The works themselves are due to conclude before the Bletchley Big Street Eat event. We have had some conversations with John. I know you have had some concerns about the works, and rightfully so, as they're still going on. So we're just working with our highways colleagues on that, and we will get a response to you, giving you the certainty on that. Thank you. So you can plan and continue, because that's also the event we want to hopefully open Queensway up at. That's our idea. We want to be there. We want to celebrate with you that we've done, we've done this wonderful transformation project. We want to share it with the town councils. Not the most inspiring image on the screen, but hopefully it shows you very much, that work is well underway if you haven't had a look already. I have got a wealth of images on here that I was going to share with you, but with brevity in mind, we'll skip on through. I did my own slide on parking enforcement very briefly before I knew Graham and Paul Harrison were attending. But what I wanted to get across more than anything was that bit Graham was mentioning, that our proposals are to prevent any illegal parking being able to take place on Queensway. You would have seen the rows of bollards as well. It's not a street, just a bollards. You have a kind of a wall of parking spaces already. You have street furniture. You'll have new planting. You'll have that cycle lane going through on the south side. You will not be able to get a car onto the pavement. That's what we're aiming to do here, whilst increasing the number of parking spaces. The third point on there is around signage and wayfinding. As Graham also mentioned very briefly, there is actually an abundance of parking across central Bletchley. Some of it is not well advertised. Some of it is a bit of a behavioural issue. We know that some people just want to go up to the shop or leave their car there and be as close as possible. Me, myself, I use the library all the time because there's so many parking spaces there. And a part of that is advertising all the parking that is available to the community. Sam's working on a few pieces around that. We're going to get some comms out. We'll improve our signage as well. I didn't want to talk about point 4 because I think Graham and Paul have chatted about that in enough detail today, and I just wanted to mention the live parking consultation of West Bletchley Council. We're going on to the transport hub, so hopefully you can all see the kind of CGI image on the right hand side there. If you can't, I'll share this presentation out after, and I can share some other images with you. But that is the idea of around a transformed Saxon Street. The works are actually due to take place next Monday. We're starting on Prince's Way crossing improvements going up to the retail part to the north. This is a really nice part of the scheme, just extending the Redway links up to there, putting some designated crossing points so people can cross safely. I'm really happy about this bit and really need to celebrate this bit, I guess, more than anything. Once that work takes place and concludes, we'll start phase 2, which is Sherwood Drive roundabout improvements. And the main part of this project is really about improving the capacity of that roundabout to reduce congestion going through the network. especially at peak times. That's what we're aiming to do there, as well as some additional safe and crossing points once again. Now, that works are currently due to take place during the summer holidays when MK College isn't open. There'll be some evening working around that, and there is talks to keep that road, Buckingham Road, as open as possible with some traffic management. But yes, we're just developing the plan for that now. We'll share that very soon. But the idea is there will be some disruption. We're not going to sugarcoat that, but we can keep the road at least open and try and minimise that as much as possible. But that's the really nice part, because that helps with phase 3. We've got improved capacity at that end. And then we want to do this lovely transformation to Saxon Street where we reduce it to a single carriageway. Now, the main reason for that is we can put a safer crossing point going directly across. We can extend the redway links throughout all of Saxon Street. We can improve the public realm at Chandos Place there. And we have this new area of enhanced public realm just adjacent to the Wilco's unit, which will be part of the Brunel Centre redevelopment. And I'll come on to that next. How am I doing for time? Keep going. Time frames for this part are not confirmed yet, and the main reason for that is we're all aware Network Rail have a big bridge restoration rebuild project, whatever we want to call it, taking place. We're currently in dialogue with them now to work out if we can deliver these schemes at the same time, if that's in the best benefit of the, of minimising disruption across Bletchley, or whether we need to start this work sooner because, we haven't got that guarantee from Network Rail. So we're just having those conversations and understanding a bit more what their project looks like before we confirm the dates on that. When we have that, we will let you all know. Revolving Development Fund, the big central project to all this, probably the flagship project in the town deal. This is our redevelopment to the Brunel Centre and Wilco's unit. At the moment, NKDP are working very closely with Callum Anderson, Muse, Homes England to develop a comprehensive master plan for the area. And that master plan includes Brunel Centre, the car park, the former Sainsbury's site, the Wilco's unit and the police and fire station. So by treating it all as one kind of master plan, we can get a developer hopefully on board who has the kind of capital to do something really ambitious, really good, really exciting for the community, as opposed to a series of smaller developers on that. So that's the idea there. We're looking to do some stakeholder engagement soon, and we'll give you more information on that when MKDP confirm it. But it's in mine and Sam's interest for as many members of the community to go out and try and get their voices heard, because we have things we want in that asset. We want new community facilities. We'd love a health facility, wouldn't we? We'd love a shop. Yeah. It's these kind of things, and that's when we'll be inviting the community and yourselves, importantly, to help us spread that message. Procurement and development partner is underway, and we've got some vacant units already there, so we're looking to do some strip out works and get that site ready for demolition, hopefully by the end of the year.
On that site, there was some signage saying predicted demolition date is June. Is that still the case? Or
so that was the prior demolition notice. That really was just to signal intent more than anything. So the dates on that aren't any. What's that, sorry?
They're not about the actual.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, they're just signaling intent.
Okay.
So don't listen to the dates on that, but we will give you the concrete information. I'm expecting it to take place at the end of the year. By the end of the year, please don't quote me on that. But once I have confirmation, we'll let you all know. That's what we're working to. I'm going to skip past the Amos project, but I will quickly say, thank you very much to Suki Gill and to all who've worked with her so far. She's doing a wonderful job promoting Bletchley as a place to do business. Very quickly, I like to put this slide in because it really shows you the scale of investment taking place in Bletchley and Fenny Stratford. No other town centre in Milton Keynes, other than CMK, is having this level of investment and attention. We have the latest estate regeneration was an absolute, 100 million pounds, as we come up to 200, of improvements, building new energy efficient homes there. We have the East-West Rail work taking place, and whilst we haven't got confirmation on when that will open, hopefully by the end of this year, we've got a lot of activity around that. We're looking to secure funding for an eastern entrance, and Milton Keynes City Council have already signalled their intent through that at Cabinet a couple of weeks ago to make a contribution towards the full costs of that. The Bletchley and Fenny Stratford 2050 vision. We're developing an action plan right now, which will outline the short, medium and long-term actions to make that vision a reality. And that will be published by September. Let's get on with that. Blue Lagoon Redways. hopefully you've all used that. The new Redway link's going through, a fantastic Blue Lagoon Nature Reserve. We're also looking to start up a park run very soon. We have the equipment investment at the Tech Park there and the Bletchley Leisure Centre improvements. So brevity, I'll skip past it all.
Are there any questions from members this evening? Keith, Ron, Ray, was that a hand? Yeah.
Well, firstly, I think we should throw some congratulations around, Chair. I mean, the quality of the work that I can see in Queensway is quite exceptional. It's really good, and I think the design on the ground, I know we've seen it in plan form, but to see it on the ground is something quite different. So I think congratulations all round to the staff that have been involved in it. Well, I have one question, Chair. The board, in fact, has bought substantial lumps of land, and at some future date they're going to sell it. My question is, what happens to that profit? Does that get reinvested, or what?
Yeah, so the revolving development fund, we have a £10 million project there, which is to buy brownfield sites, and the idea being is we get that site ready for development, we procure a developer, and we get a profit or a return on that piece of land, that investment. So that is what we're hoping to achieve. We're hoping to get multiple revolutions of that fund. What I will say is in 2021, when this project was conceived and subsequently market conditions are very different. Inflationary pressures on the project in general have been considerable. Whatever return we do get on that revolving development fund scheme will not be as generous as we probably planned 5 years ago. But we're still hopeful we can get a revolution on that. We can use that to invest in a different site or put towards a different project.
Thank you.
For Bletchley, yeah, so yeah, anyway, central Bletchley.
I think I've got Ron, then Ray, then myself.
Okay. You know, we were parking in Queensway. You did say a little while back to me about being 30 minutes. I was talking to the guy in the post office, I don't know if you know, but that's moving into the Agora into a smaller area. So we was talking and we believe that 30 minutes won't be long enough now with what's going on as well. So I think you may need to look at an hour. Plus maybe a bit longer, but an hour at least.
I think we'll take that one away because I don't think it's a town deal item. Ray?
My question's more about the Big Street E. That's a crucial thing that certainly the public expect. It's I guess, our flagship thing. And it does require from Elizabeth Square to Stanier Square, the whole route. Now, I know that you're going to say you're confident. I'm sure you are confident and you will have every intention of delivering that day. The problem is, what if it goes wrong? And if you can't get that open for us to have that, what happens to the event? And how you propose to deal with that? That's the big issue for me.
So very, very fair point, and me and John did speak about it yesterday at the Town Deal Board. The majority of the works on Queensway are actually due to conclude in May. It's phase 3, which is the last infill bit between Albert Street and Brooklands Road, which is due to take place into June. Now, appreciate the original date for this works was expected near the end of May, so we've already had a bit of slippage, and some of that was around Christmas period and the weather, and unfortunately the discovery of groundworks and causing issues. I said I'll take away from John there. I've set up a meeting with Graham and have a talk to him. We need full confidence that those works will be complete by then, or alternative plans need to be made for the Big Street E. And that's simply all I can say right now. It's with me to speak to our highways department, get as concrete confirmation on that as we can, and give you that decision as a matter of urgency in the next week kind of thing, as opposed to letting the planning continue.
Just considering the time it's taken to do Elizabeth Square, which is still not finished. You've got another square the other end, and then you've got the infill.
Agreed.
It's a big task.
Yeah, it is a massive task, and that's part of the reason for additional resource, simultaneous working and weekend working. Highways do understand, and they have got this Bletchley Big Street E as a hard deadline, but I appreciate there is a bit of uncertainty still.
Just to add as well, the office team are looking at contingency plans for this, so we can bring it to members as and when.
I think members feel very strongly about, really want this event to go ahead, I think.
And we want it to go ahead as well, 'cause we want to be there.
And also, I think some of our funding is dependent on it being in a high street location. So it's really important to us that it takes place there, because we don't have the option of just, say, putting it into a park instead, because the funding is attached to it being to rejuvenating the high street. Was there anybody else who wanted to come in? Sorry, Richard. Last one.
Right, I've got three fairly quick questions. Two regarding Brunel and one on the lakes. First, is the demolition of Brunel, is it dependent upon a new developer being found, or is it going to happen anyway? And who pays for the demolition? The second question is, what happens sort of after that if a can't find a developer, and also is the cost that they have, new developer isn't subsidised, so it's an incentive for that. And then lastly, separately, on the Lakes estate, I've seen the new house, but I wondered if there's any plan to sort of improve the image or insides of the existing older properties, because there's obviously still quite a lot of older properties, and people mention to me, what's like the pathways or the inside and out of the house. Is there anything being done to those, or anything planned?
Okay, so firstly, in terms of the demolition, when they're how that's paid for, when it will happen, etc. So the revolving development fund, we use that funding to buy the Brunel Centre, the Sainsbury's site. That funding is also being used to demolish the building. So that money, that demolition is secured through the town deal fund, and that's part of that kind of remedial works to get that ready for a developer. In terms of will it happen, regardless of getting a developer or not? Yes, because at the moment that building is hemorrhaging money. It's a revenue risk. It needs to be demolished as soon as feasibly possible. And again, we'll cover that through the town deal funding. The idea, and while we're doing the developer procurement in kind of tandem, while we haven't got it vacant yet or demolished, but the idea is when we do demolish it, we've already got a developer on board who's done a considerable amount of work on the master planning, community engagement, etc. So we're ready for that. In terms of the last question on the latest day, I do apologise. I won't profess to say I'm an expert beyond kind of town deal or central Bletchley. Happy to take that one away and get a response on that for you and bring it back.
Okay, thanks.
Or maybe attend some of the Lakes estate meetings, then you would know.
Justin is the last question.
Last week, I think I've talked to the project manager talking about how long we have been fall behind the schedule. I think it's about 3 weeks. So is there any in the coming schedule? Is there any alerts that you're going to pop all the impacted parties that they know how long they've been behind schedule, and is there any way that is that whatever is a milestone, whatever we declare, everything has to be delay and an official delay, or say the big issue has to be adjusted. So is there any milestone that we can declare everything has to be delayed, and we have figured out the alternate solution for some critical events coming in?
So what I will say on that, happy to tell them. I do regular briefings, as you can imagine, to various stakeholders, and of course, John, you're at the town deal board, so I know you're privy to part of this. Happy to do a specific note for full council, get something back to you in the next week or two, which just kind of outlines the programme, critical path, etc., and where we are in terms of progress. A follow up from that.
So Sam, Beryl, thank you so much, and particularly all the events you attend, all the engagement that you do, it's really appreciated. Thank you very much. You don't need to stay, you're welcome to.
Cheers, folks. It's Champions League football. There's no place I'd rather be, of course, speaking to people. I enjoy it, but.
Thank you. Right. Members, we will now go to item 5 of the agenda, page 9 to 12 of your pack, which is to note the minutes of recent meetings of the committees, for the Finance and Governance Committee and the Community and Environment Committee, which were held on the 3rd of February and 17th of February respectively. Unless members stay now, I will take it that those that you are happy with the minutes of those meetings. Thank you. They are noted. We'll now go on to item 8 on the agenda, which is to review and comment on planning applications due to be considered by Milton Keynes Council. First, 8.1, PLN 2026 2226 56 Queensway, change of use from shop to hot food takeaway. Any comments or questions? Thank you.
Just a couple. I'm really quite concerned about another takeaway establishment being on Queensway and the lack of retail diversity we're now getting on Queensway. We're doing all this great work with Daryl, Sam there, actually full of takeaways. It's just, for me, we're not future-proofing the future of Queensway. We're not attracting better businesses to Queensway by just having takeaways all over the street. I'm not sure if there's anything around. There's also the parking at the top there. There's not a lot of parking which goes into Marmother Road. Yeah, up the street. And at the top there, the Oswald Street. Oswald Street, yeah. So the road where Sainsbury's was before. Where's the parking happen there? I know there's stuff behind there, but it's usually packed out already.
I do take your point. I do think it's like we have to have material planning consideration.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, but
I just said a comment. It's just really, if we keep going down this trail, it's just kind of a nighttime economy there.
I do think that the only, for the comments that you've made, the only thing that we can actually do is express that through the neighbourhood plan to influence future stuff. But I don't think that
It's somewhere.
I hear you because I feel the same.
Because although there's no specific law regarding numbers of takeaways, just wondered on the financial side of that individual takeaway. I noticed the company, I went on company's house, noticed the company's a very new company. Previous owners twice mentioned that there'd be quite a cost outlay to transfer the funds. Have they actually shown that we've got the money to at least change it to the purpose, or it's going to be sat there?
It's not a material planning consideration.
Yes.
And so we can only comment on what the...
Secondly, one last point, but I'll probably be reversed on it, but there is technically all those takeaways come within are on the same road as the school, and another councillor mentioned, it's not right near. Technically, by law, the definition of near is within 400 metres or 10 minutes walk, and I would say back when I was supposed to, I could probably walk from there, from the school boundary on Queensway, right through the shopping centre to the end. And that could be some consideration. The school, even though it's a primary school, you've got walkers coming out, faced with a barrage of takeaways. And again, it's not the number, but then any new application could surely be considered on that basis.
I don't think it's a material planning consideration. We could ask third party to investigate, but it's like, I don't think, like, the only thing that you would have potentially is parking, and actually what they can argue is that there is parking kind of close by, and there is all, we might not want it, but we can only make it, we can only express our opinion on, which is based on material planning considerations. And the planning authority, if we just send them things which we don't like, but there's no reason for us actually saying, they will just stop listening to us.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
so
aware of that. I just thought I'd find out a
that
bit
is
more.
That is the point.
Another councillor did mention that, but I thought.
Yeah, just you to do with that neighbourhood plan. And I know that's an agenda tonight, but can't we, at the moment, you can't do anything about clustering, I don't believe. And if market decides whether they're going to or not, so they either buy food or they won't buy food. And if they don't buy food, they close down. Can't we put something into the neighbourhood plan that says there's a limit to how many of the same type of shop.
We could say that we prefer certain types of shops, and then the planning team would have to go through them in an order of what shops are more acceptable, but it's not, it's actually as you know, because it's part of a neighbourhood plan, it's a longer term solution, but what it's not going to stop is people making the applications beforehand, because until it's been a referendum and it's voted, it has no legal weight. So sorry, I think we have got an agenda to get to, and I'm going to carry on now. Do members want to make a comment that it is a material planning consideration? What is the comment?
Because I went to that shop today.
Okay, what is the material planning consideration?
Because on top is a clinic. What they only concerned about is the odor smell or anything.
No, sorry, so is this a resident or?
Dentist above it.
Yeah.
Is it what?
It's a tenant on top. Because when I talked to them, they talked about the weather.
Unfortunately, landlords, private landlords, own the building. And it's down to
I'm sorry, if it's the dentist, it's actually, they've actually made a thing.
What I want to express is, if the applicant has supplied everything legally to the plan, that we don't have an excuse that not to approve. But on the other words, I go to the clinic and then I ask if they're concerned about the odor smell, is there any scientific way to measure the smell is acceptable or not? But they just said there's no substrate.
That is for the planning authority to do.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I want before we make the decision.
What I'm hearing is for this one, it's like no comment.
No comment, yeah.
Okay, next item on the agenda is 8.2, PLN 2026-0102, 25 Oliver Road, Bletchley, change of use from dwelling house from use class C3 to 5-bedroom HMO for 6 residents. Did anyone want to come in? I think Ray, I saw an email from you.
Yeah, I'll put the email. Again, I just think it's a traditional 2-bedroom house, 2 up, 2 down. Extended once, and it's going to be extended again, and that's going to be 6 people, well, 6 rooms. Could be 5 people in there. 5 rooms, 6 people, but it could be more than 6 people. And parking is a clear issue there. There is no room for parking there. And just the comings and goings of people, for the detriment to the rest of the residents.
Yeah. So I did review the parking SPD, and I did review the application. We actually say themselves that there's no parking for the properties in the town centre, so it's part of zone 2, and for a property in zone 2 there needs to be a third of a space per lettable room. So by my calculation, that is 1.98 rooms, or 2 spaces. They don't have it, and I think so that would be a material planning condition. It doesn't follow the parking SPD.
Thank you. On the new plan, they earmarked 2 spaces at the rear.
We've always had those.
I'm not sure how usable it is, but on the new plans, they clearly say that there's space for 2 vehicles at the rear of the property, and there's an entrance to the property from the rear.
Not on the application.
It's on the document.
It is in the document.
Yeah, it's in the new site layout.
Okay. What I suggest is that we note it, we complain on the basis of parking, and I will ask John and myself, if you want to delegate it to John and myself, we can do some investigation, but if you're all minded that we want to object, is there a seconder for that?
Oh, second.
Yeah. Anybody, all in favour? Anybody against? Any abstentions? Okay. Next item is 8.3, PLN 2026-0094, 12A Clark Road, Bletchley, change of use from employment to education with extensions, sport facilities, outdoor play areas and revised parking and drop-off provision. Anybody want to talk about that? Clark Road.
Industrial part of the
I take it there's nobody wants to comment about this, so no comments, yes? Thank you. We now go on to item 9, to consider co-option of new councillors. I would like to thank Wayne for being very patient, sat here for some time. Wayne is here for item 9.1, into Stratford. He met with the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Weimer, and partially myself for a few minutes the other day. And I believe that there is some information about his application on pages 17 to 22 of your packs. And the panel were unanimously happy to recommend him for co-option as a councillor. Do any members have any comments or questions? Okay, so I will move that we formally co-opt for the position of Eton South Ward. I think Richard is happy to second. All those in favour? Anybody against? Any abstentions? I think that is carried unanimously. Wayne, if you want to sign the paperwork tonight, you become a councillor tonight, and you can take part in the rest of the meeting. Welcome to the council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is 9.2. Oh, can I just also say, Wayne actually is from the Lake Estate, and I think it's great that we have councillors who live there. And, you know, I know that myself, Daniel, and as with many of the councillors and Uche who live here in Newton Mews, we know what the issues are, and I think it's really good that we have councillors who live in the areas that they support. The 9.2, the other co-option has withdrawn their application for this evening. Right, we will now go on to item 10, which is to update members on progress of the Sycamore Buildings project and seek ratification of asbestos removal costs and approval of recommended contract variations. This sits at pages 23 and 26 in your pack. Mark, is there something you wanted to talk to?
No, you can read through it. I mean, it's quite a long report, but I'm sure everyone's read it already. But I think just the recommendations really, and we spoke about it before, but the ratification of the asbestos removal and also the delegation to any future spending for the contingency to the Mayor, Deputy Mayor and Chair of Finance as well. So if you've got any comments or questions, we can answer them now.
Is there like a mid-project sort of financial review to make sure that spending is within forecast and any sort of additional sort of expenditure going forward?
There isn't at the moment, but Ali, you might have some comments.
But we do, I believe with the update, there was some of the contract variations, and there is still some additional small contract variations that haven't been fully costed, but they're not, they at the moment, they will remain contained within the 40K contingency. So,
Do we ever reject any of the contract variations?
we have a law that says
no.
These have been approved, these have been rejected, these are pending.
No, there's all.
we haven't rejected any so far. We've had one site meeting, and the next one's coming up very soon.
Yeah.
So far, no. In the report, you can see the variation order. You can see them. Yeah.
Myself, Marie, there was somebody else. Was it just the two of us? It was just the two of us, wasn't it? There was a design meeting last week, and we actually went through, and there are some things that we've said that we really talked about, and we were like, well, we can't do it, or we can do it, or whatever. But I think we are not. I think some of the decisions that have been made, they are really needed. So, like for instance, it's going to cost us £22,000 to encapsulate the asbestos and 27,000 to remove it. And my kind of thing personally, I did consult the Chair of Finance and the Deputy Mayor. My thing was, let's get rid of it. This is, we're having this building for the next generation, and why spend 1.7 million? And just to wrap something up, at one point, I did get the numbers wrong. I read the quote wrong, and we thought that there was a 70k gap, at which point it was a different decision. So the recommendations are that the council ratified the previous decision to use 27,675 from the rolling capital reserve for asbestos removal for a Sycamore Hall roof. Number 2, that the council approved the use of the project contingency fund for the contract variations, which were listed above. And I think the contract variations were removal of a planned sink in meeting room 5, paving repairs at Sycamore House Garden, earthworks near toilet block to address the damp to both buildings, brick repairs to the barn gable end, rebuilding kitchen walls, and WC layout adjustments. So those are the items. And then third, we proposing that we agree that delegated officer powers may be used with the support of the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor and the Chair of Finance and Governance Committee for individual contract variations for up to 10k where delay would impact project delivery. And I think the reason for this is if we had not made the decision that we made about the asbestos, we would have ended up with a 3-week delay in the project, and that would cost us. So I would propose that we adopt the recommendations. Richard's happy to second. All those in favour of recommendations? Anybody against? Any abstentions? I think that is carried unanimously. Okay. Next item on the agenda is to consider funding to support the Blue Lagoon Park Run, which is on pages 27 to 28 of your pack. Something you want to say to this?
Councillor Stephen,
Yeah,
would you
sure.
like to-
So, yes, just for those who don't know what the park run is, I'm requesting some additional financial support to enable us to set the park run up. Milton Keynes City Council provided the 5k to set it up, and that comes with a number of some mandatory equipment that you get for park runs, which is essentially across the country. But for those who don't know what it is, it's a free weekly 5k community run held every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. across the country. There's hundreds and hundreds of them in the country. So you get a barcode, you get a unique number. You go to any of the park runs, they're all run exactly the same. And it's all very volunteer led. It's free to attend, and it's really to bring together Newton Lees, Lakes, Central Bletchley, a smaller park run, but people to enjoy the beautiful scenery down there. So in terms of park runs, you've got health and well-being, you've got your reduces social isolation. I've been volunteering for the last month at mainly Berryfields and we've got Pagnell, and the amount of retired people who come out just volunteer to be a marshal, have a chat, have a coffee afterwards. It's really fantastic. It ensures accessibility and inclusion and the positive use of Blue Lagoon. It's all about getting the right for Blue Lagoon, enjoying it. And you see, I don't know if anyone's been down there recently, the amount of work that's been done down there looks fantastic. It's all been opened out. It's really good. So in terms of the equipment we require, we've put in a request of £400, and this is really things like what I've learned from doing all the volunteering is you need to get this kit to the start area, and when the weather's inclement or when the car park's some way away, you need a trolley. You're going to need stuff to mark stuff out. You'll need storage crates because you've got barcodes, tokens you have to sort out. You've got maps. You've got lanyards for the marshal, etc. like that. We can when we get it set up. So at the moment we've got all the run directors in place, which was a problem we had. We didn't have enough. We've got that in place. We're all getting trained at different run directors. They're running in Simple Paddle on Saturday, which is really good. It's when we get involved with it, you see the back office, and it's really, there's a lot to do. Like tomorrow, I'm going to take some photographs down there to look at marshal points. So if we have an emergency, well, this is the quickest way to get out, etc. So we're just asking for some support to be able to get this sort of this equipment to get us up and running. Well, hopefully after Easter, we should be getting a date. We've got a park run ambassador, which is Gareth Nelson, who set up the Milton Keynes one. So he knows everything about park runs, and he keeps us very. I said same as David Lewis at Stirlingford Wood. We've got some consumer. We've got laminating pouches, cable ties, all those sort of things. And I think that would help us a lot to get this set up. After that, when we've got a page, we can then get questions from public, and that's what they do. But we haven't got it, so I'm not to oppose it. If we could do somewhere around £400.
I'll second.
No, I'd just like to say something. Sorry, Councillor Stevens, is there any reason why we didn't go through the process of the community grants policy circumventing that?
I think it's a timing thing.
Okay.
That's the problem is that we may not need it straight away now. It's just in a forecast we've got that funding which can enable us to tackle that. I haven't really worked out because we're not a charity. How that can,
But it is
there's things.
a well-known organisation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So once we've got confirmation, then we will have the sort of infrastructure behind us.
Sorry, is there any questions? Sorry. Okay.
Other than there's also a good park walk community. It's not just the run.
Oh yes, it's walking, running.
If anyone wants to go,
Yes,
5K walk as well.
You take a dog, anything you like. You're actually right. Yes. It's not a race, it's a run. But there's always a tail walker at the end, so no one's ever last.
Is this item seconded? Yeah. All those in favour? Anybody against? Any abstentions? I think that should be unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The funds coming from, it's been met by the community grant budget, which we've got some money left in, which would probably be the recommendation to do, or the that I would recommend.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is item 12, pages 29 to 36 in your pack. This is to seek approval in principle for the development of a council rebrand programme, including a refreshed visual identity as part of the council's wider commitments to civic pride, effective place shaping and modern local governance. The project, so if the document talks about, we've had the same logo for 25 years, actually we found out it's actually longer than that because we found a council newsletter entitled The Progressive, which has the logo and it's dated 1997. So even before the town council came in existence, that logo was being used for, I think it was called a neighbourhood committee or neighbourhood council. Thank you, Keith. So I think that some of the reasons around the change is actually the existing logo was built for a period of time where the things are very different. We live in a more digital world. It doesn't work in a kind of digital way. It can be very difficult to read. Nobody actually knows what all of the items are in the green at the bottom. And it's applied inconsistently. It cannot always be reproduced very well. I think that we all would recognise the council. We have spent a long time really trying to create a strong civic identity and to be a really professional. I won't go on, but there's a report there which is before you. I don't know if any members have any questions that they would like to ask at this stage.
There's no doubt, Chair, I shall vote against this on several bases. I mean, you say about, it's not a modern thing to have, and it's 20 odd years old. Well, some of the proposals, the alternatives, they've got to be 1,000 years old. And if you put those shields with crowns and lions rampant, again on a wall with 50 of them, you wouldn't be able to tell which one came from where. I know it's only an example, but that is in the extreme. You've got an example there of something that's 1,000 years old, and you've got something there next to it which is brand new.
They are only ideas.
Of course they are, but it shows how diverse the views are without any concentration or any idea of where it's going to go. Our current logo is in 3 parts. You have the Lancers of the Sun at the top. The pleasure of our natural environment on the bottom, and the encompassing of our identity all the way around it. The one, it shows sunshine, brightness, looking into the future. Item 2, and number 2, it shows natural environment, vision, optimism, modes of transport of what's shown in the green. If you look at it closely, you'll see the canal, the river, the A5 and the railway. And the third, our place name says exactly what we are. There's no doubt about it. So why is there, why more is there? What more is there? It has served us well and will continue to serve us well in the future if we look after it. And I don't see any point, Chair, of moving it, changing it whatsoever. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that wants to kind of speak on this item?
It's just a thing, you see many companies rebrand something, call it something else. BT are a fine example, for various different things, and a couple of trumpeters merged together. And if it needs sharpening, I think there's a case to say sharpen what you've got, not necessarily break the wheel and try and invent another one. They say that camel was invented by a community.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think maybe you could change the font slightly, or just use the existing design, just a slight change, so it's still as well. People will look at it, and if you change it a lot, people are going to wonder what it is. If you take a quick glance, you won't immediately know what it is.
Okay.
Sorry. We talk about engagement and engagement with the community, and I think maybe we throw that out of the community and just let them say what they think. And when the email came out the other week, said about changing the name of the thing, and I went to the Conservative Club, or the Bletchley Social Club, went down there and asked some people, I said, do you know the name of the magazine? And without exception, other than one person said no. One person thought it was called The Neighbourhood. And then I said, do you read it? Yeah, it's pretty close. And I said, do you read it? And one of them said, I don't read it, so I go online and see if I want to watch what I'm doing. So people can't read it.
Sorry.
I think even the city council have changed, they freshen up the ideas. If you look at the Peugeot, they do it. Renault, the big brand, they do it. I think always look for fresh look, and I'm always in favor to have a change so people feel like they're fresh. And obviously, we have law boundary change in the council as well, so that might actually help. And the young people will, if you ask, you put in a bucket and ask people ideas and ask people to consult, and people might come up with a better idea.
Yeah, just to illustrate what Mo just said, but I think put it out on our social media review.
So I think we either, so the paper is that we either do want to do something about our brand or we don't. I think just to come back on some of the other points, one of the items there is actually the coat of arms of Bletchley, which is actually on the chains of office that we have. So that is something that has existed before the logo that we've had. The second item is actually a redraw of the current, which actually, instead of it all being green, it actually makes, because I don't think that you can actually tell from that logo that we currently use with the words going around it. And actually, I don't know if anyone's actually noticed.
Backwards.
But it's actually backwards, and you can't actually tell it on the document because of the resolution that it actually is. So do we want our name mark to be more prominent and for the actual design to actually be at a higher resolution? If you look at the resolution of the redraw and the resolution of the existing town council, they are completely different. And it's like, you know, it's like standard definition and high definition. And so what the paper is here is not saying, is actually saying, is this something that we want to do and we want to consider? It's not, no one's put a proposal on the table and said it's going to cost them this much. It's like, these are some issues. Do we investigate it? So if you agree tonight, what it would be is that the officers go away, come up with some stuff, come up with an engagement plan, and then come back and we will discuss it again. We are not committing to anything, even these designs, tonight.
I think looking at the old design versus, say, for instance, the redraw, it'd be a good idea moving forward that we future-proof the council. You know, something that's been seen for the last 20 years, it can do with a refresh. We're going to have a flag outside Sycamore House. That flag's going to be prominent in the marketplace. The public will see that brand. I mean, with Bletchley and Fenny Stratford Town Council on it. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's going to be a good idea to refresh.
Okay.
Can I, sorry, as the RFO, I'd just like to say something. Obviously, I know, depending on the decision of the members and the scale of any rebranding involved, it's not within the coming financial year's budget. So perhaps this would be something that could be considered in preparation for the budget for 27-28.
Again, I think it's like, it's
what
we're saying tonight, what the proposal is will it be something that is considered by the officer team?
Yeah.
One of the problems with that is that you want a decision before Sycamore House is finished.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get it at that rate.
Okay, understood. Should we just go to the vote? Sorry, Justin.
My question is relatively layman, is if we rebrand the logo or rebrand something, what we need to realize is what is the, if a resident would say, well, what are the benefits of rebrand to the residents? What is the actual benefits?
Why are we spending £1.7 million refreshing a building if we can't refresh our brands?
That's my question is, we need to quantify something before we make the decision.
I think, as I said, the project is around, is whether the officers spend time on this. I think we'll.
I see this as not necessarily a full rebrand. This isn't we're going to go and change the logo. It's should we investigate, can we refresh the logo? Can we get it modernised? Can we in fact get the current logo redrawn so it's high resolution, right? I see this as can we go and explore, not as we're going to go and do a drastic name change.
I think I illustrate further is that we need some illustration to let the public know why we have that motion.
That's what we got.
This is all right.
That's what we got.
Okay, we'll go to the vote. All those, it's been seconded by Richard. All those in favour? All those in favour of the officer team considering the refresh, coming back to the full council with some costs, a timeline, and a report on what they think that we should do. So that is the proposal. All those in favour of that? Anybody? So can you please count? Anybody against? And any abstentions? Okay, so that is carried by majority. Okay, we'll now go on to the next item, which is to note a response from Milton Keynes City Council on the Bletchley Leisure Centre lift motion. That's pages 37 to 38 in your pack. I think it's there. Is there anything you wanted to talk about it or not?
No, only that we'd sent the motion over at the time. And it took a couple of weeks, but we got a response back from Mick Legg, as you can see. But what you see there is kind of what we've received. So there's nothing more to add from my side.
Okay, everybody happy to move it? Yeah. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, item 14, which is to consider a response to West Bletchley's resident parking options consultation, pages 39 to 42 in your pack. Do members want to say anything on this item? Terry?
I'm just going to make it wider, Bletchley, not just for West Bletchley. It impacts us, going back to the conversation we had earlier on about the ripple effect. If they don't park there, they'll end up parking in the streets. So mine would be to future-proof again and extend it.
Great. Do you want to come in, man?
Yeah, just to reinforce the fact that what they're not doing the monitoring, they're not doing the policing and the enforcement. And if they put it elsewhere, it's probably going to happen. I know it's West Bletchley, not us, but the problem here is right for those people that do pay £25. Yeah, they need to be able to prove that they can enforce it, and that's the one thing they can never do. They cannot prove the enforcement. It is a requirement for the TRO to prove they can enforce that they can prove they can enforce it. They can't do it for us in Bletchley. And to throw it out there for another one with the same labour force, it's just not viable. And we have to say to them, like, you know, I think it's beyond stupidity. It's just another time take another £25 off the residents and not police it. And the word is, if you read the full report, it all says, if we go with option A, or the option that they push us to, it will ensure that you're able to park outside. It won't ensure, because if someone comes and parks there and nobody takes them away or enforces a penalty, it won't ensure anything. And it's full of little notes like that that are misleading if you don't read through between the lines.
I think with this survey for West Bletchley, I mean, you know, West Bletchley's got to do what they've got to do. We've got to do what we've got to do. The fact that it might impact on us, so it will impact on us. Besides the point, but I still think they've got to do something. Residents have got to do something in West Bletchley in respect to the parking. Just same as we've got to do something for our parking. The fact that we listen to the same rhetoric from parking enforcement every time. For the last 30 years, I've been listening to this. I'm a bit bored, but that's the excuse that we're going to get. And I keep going back to, and I keep saying this, we need a different strategy. People are not listening. It's the same strategy that I listened to 30 years ago that I'm listening to again and again and again, but it will not come up with a different strategy. It's all about income for Milton Keynes Council. I believe that they should devolve down to us, which they won't do, because we can then ring-fence the money that we derive from parking enforcement back into more enforcement. That's what we can do as a council, but no one's listening. But they will not devolve that service down to us, because we would get the revenue. We can plough it back into more enforcement, if you know what I mean. So there's a strategy. Everybody listening.
I noticed as well that there didn't seem to be.
Thank you.
Is it really quick?
Yeah, really quick. Oh, sorry.
Could I just make one point that it's just a survey at the moment, and I personally do not think that there'll be sufficient people responding. We've had one drop-in session today, we've got 2 more, and the options they propose are not acceptable to most people, and I think it would fail. So we may want to defer the decision until the outcome of the survey. That's all I wanted to say, really.
Sorry.
I think we should resolve to seek a comprehensive review of the parking. Anything less is a waste of time. You're just going to move the problem around the town. So comprehensive review or nothing.
Sorry, so your proposal would be a comprehensive review of Bletchley and Fenny, Stratford and West Bletchley to be done together?
Yes.
Yeah, I noticed in the conversations before, there doesn't seem to be any escalation. For example, there doesn't seem to be any difference between someone staying on a single yellow line, earning a ticket, and somebody driving down the pavement, scattering kids aside, which I've seen. And I'm making a joke of it, it's a serious safety issue. Parking on the pavement, actually, and it's coming and going, it's not just leaving it a little bit overnight. and there doesn't seem to be any escalations. So someone mentioned Bamford. I've seen cars completely blocking the pavements. There's nobody get past, and especially if you think about vulnerable residents in a wheelchair or pushing buggies, there's no option other than to go on the road really. And there should be some escalation. That's just an additional point.
At some point, no. Okay, so we have a proposal on the table. Is that seconded? All those in favour of the proposal? Any abstentions? Anybody against? I think that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is to receive an update on the neighbourhood plan. Item 15, that's a verbal report.
Just a brief update on this from the steering group. So the policy narratives have now been drafted. The next step is to bring them together into a full document. Once that's done, we'll be in a position to begin the Regulation 14 consultation. However, due to PERDA, this is going to be delayed probably until the middle of May. So there's a bit more work to do. But in the meantime, between now and May, we can get prepared. But it's just a bit of a delay for me, which might want to add anything to it. But the chair is not here tonight. So thank you.
Members are aware that I think it's 26th of March is the day that the election, the nomination papers have to be in, and we cannot consult on anything that could influence an election or people could use to actually campaign on. So because we can't get the consultation done before the 26th of March and completed, we cannot consult on this until after the Milton Keynes City Council election, which will be on the 7th of May.
One little thing about the neighbourhood plan, it's something that, we should be really thinking about as councillors. Again, Ray, you mentioned something with the neighbourhood plan where parking is concerned. We have to be invested in the neighbourhood plan as councillors, and I urge all councillors to be involved at the next stage of this neighbourhood plan, because it's crucial that you understand why we've got a neighbourhood plan, what it means to the public, what it means to our area. It's something that you should be involved in as councillors to understand what a neighbourhood plan would mean to residents. That's what we're going to be consulting on. And you guys as councillors and in your own little wards and stuff like that need to talk to the residents about this neighbourhood plan. They need to understand why we're going to have a neighbourhood plan. We need to be invested in this. We need to get it over the line as well.
From its officials, which is really fine.
I agree with Deputy Mayor. I think that Terry, you made the point earlier about concentration, proliferation of takeaways. The only way that we can control it is by having a neighbourhood plan. So I think it's something that we need to get behind. Yeah. Okay, we'll move on. Thank you for the update. We'll go on to the next agenda item, which is item 16, to approve the review of effectiveness of internal audit and controls. I believe, Chair of Finance, this is something that you're making a recommendation on, or is this something you are?
So Finance and Governance reviewed the effectiveness of internal audit and controls at their last committee meeting. So it's just, it has to be fully approved by full council.
Yeah,
so,
the committee agreed it.
Yeah.
And that comes.
Gets formal
recommendation.
So it's a recommendation from the Finance and Governance Committee. Does it need to be seconded? Recommendation? All those in favour of the recommendation? Anybody against? Any abstentions? Okay, that's that one done. And then next item is to ratify a list of payments made or due to be made by the council for the next meeting of the Finance and Governance Committee. That's pages 51 to 54 in your pack. Does any members have any questions about any of the items on this list? No. So we do I have a seconder? All those in favour? Anybody against? Any abstentions? That is carried unanimously. Next item on the agenda is item 18, to note a summary financial report showing income and expenditure against budget to date. Orifo, is there anything you want to say about it?
Just quickly, as I've been reporting to both Finance and Governance and full council when these summary reports come up, we are looking at a substantial underspend this year, but it's for very specific reasons. The fact we're not currently repaying the Public Works Loan Board loan. And obviously, because we've had a dip higher cash reserves, the interest we've received on our reserves has been that much higher. So the underspend is reflected because of that. So
When did we take the first loan?
August.
August.
Yeah.
Oh, do you want a question?
No.
Okay, so item 19, to approve the final version of the committee structure and scheme of delegations document for the new year from May. This is 2020 to 27.
Yeah, this is just, if you want to consider any change, I mean, I realise the document's not on there, but the meeting cycle is. However, this is just to consider any changes you want to make. If you want to make to the committee structure, at the moment, it's finance and governance, community environment and full council. It's, if you're happy with that, and employment policy, of course. So if you want to consider any changes, now's the time to kind of consider those in the report. I think there's a couple of options there. The options are around separating community environment, which has been spoken about before, having two separate committees there. Retaining the current structure, but adding a planning committee to help speed things along in that part, or any other options we can consider really. So at the moment, and the way the meetings are set out and we've approved this, do you want to continue as we are as we go into the next financial year, or any changes? Over to you.
I suppose we stay as we are.
I'll second it. Let's have something to be somewhere. It's changing everything else. Yes.
I thought you were a real change agent, Keith. I thought you were a real change agent.
Yeah.
So there's a proposal, it's seconded. All those in favour of the proposal? Anybody against? Any abstentions? That is carried unanimously. Okay, now on to the final page.
And the most exciting.
Item 18, to note a summary financial report showing income. We've done this already.
Yeah.
20.
Last one. But it's printed out, so, oh no, it's like that.
Okay.
Sorry. Item 20, to review the asset register and approve asset disposals. Is there something you want to say to me, Barbara?
Yes, please. So obviously full council have to review the asset register prior to the year end. Now, the asset register I've attached to this committee report doesn't include any disposals that I'm proposing in the separate document. So I'm sure you found it very interesting to look at the whole report. And obviously I've attached separately the assets that we've acquired between 1st of April to the 6th of March and the previous disposals that have already been approved by Finance and Governance and full council. So that's as it stands. I'm proposing, I've attached my report with all the disposals I'd like the full council to approve tonight. It includes various items, the replacement of the laptops. We've got redundant laptops now. And unfortunately, due to the public realm improvements, we did have a lot of assets, including bollards, seating, planters in Elizabeth Square that have disappeared now. Obviously, I'm trying to get to the bottom of where they disappeared to. We haven't had any response yet from them.
I spoke about it yesterday, so yeah, they're Sam who's here, going to find out.
Yes, we'll find out. So that's why there's an awful lot of disposals on this to do with public health improvement. There is actually another point, although I'd like you to consider disposal of these assets. Obviously, the bandstand is due to be moved, I think, within the next couple of weeks, but it's going to be stored elsewhere. So it's not actually technically going to be disposed of. So, and then also, obviously, we'll be moving out of Spotlight. There will be potentially some disposals from that meeting space. we don't physically have the room to store them elsewhere. So I'm just seeking approval that I can dispose of these assets prior to the year end.
One question.
Yes.
I brought it up before about our old laptops, problem in finance. I talked about the disposal of the old laptops and stuff like that, whether they can be repurposed and given to communities or anybody that needs them. Is that part of it? Is that?
I think that's something we've looked into in the past. We went through the route of proper data destruction because it was more tricky.
Yeah, it's the process of making sure they're wiped.
Yeah, of course. But then once it's been wiped, they're virtually.
The trouble is, you know, we're getting rid of these laptops because they are not fit for purpose now.
Yes, but they can be used by people that are going to do less work on these laptops. That could be used in the community somewhere along the line. And something's better than nothing. But some people have got nothing, you know,
I know.
in the community. So I just don't want them seen thrown away. I want them to be repurposed so someone can use them in some capacity. You know.
I know, but some of them didn't actually work.
Yeah, well, the ones that don't work, you throw away. But the ones that do work, let's give it away. Marie.
Not for discussion now, but the bandstand, I know we did have a little discussion about moving that to different areas. Can that be put onto the community?
That was already, I think it's already been discussed, hasn't it? And there was no
outcome.
There was no location for it that it was.
What are we doing with it?
Where's the store it?
Yeah, no, as far as I know, no one wants this bandstand.
So did sorry, I didn't want to make.
Yeah, we spoke about previous meeting, the location.
Did the Leon rep, what will happen with that?
That was spoken about.
Yeah, so what was that?
Decided not feasible because
It's been an ASB hotspot.
Yeah.
Is there any possibility of in return, once the work is finished, put back where it was, or was there no room for it? I thought that. Yeah.
Okay, so we go back to the agenda then. The total value of disposal is 39,222.62. It's recommended that these assets are disposed and the asset register amended accordingly. Do you have a seconder? Thank you, Richard. All those in favour? Anybody against? Any abstention? I think that is carried unanimously. That brings our meeting to an end at 21:22. And for those people joining at home this evening, thanks very much for coming to the meeting. And the next meeting of council is the community meeting on the 7th of April, and it will be at 7. Thank you.